Mavs in the 6.
Some consider it the pinnacle of rivalry in the modern NFL. A team with 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years, and also the Bengals. Let's talk about it.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory, presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC. Kent Swanson here with Matthew Lane. Matthew, how are we on this fine June evening?
Listen, we're doing pretty good. Football's in a slow period. We have had like 7-8 days off in between NBA games, like playoff games, going from the conference finals to the finals that finally breaks Thursday night, which is great. So it's been a weird week. I guess I'm getting myself prepared for the summer where there's not a lot of fun sports on, Kent, and like that's a struggle for me. This is a hard time of the year without sports on.
I have a question for you. What was cool?
I have an answer.
Well, we'll find out. What was cooler? Another Patrick Mahomes behind the back pass on film, or the fact that Carson Steele was the one who caught it?
I mean, the Steele one-handed catch was cooler because, one, I've seen Mahomes do this behind the back pass. And two, I'm trying to think of like how the structure of that play would have worked where Mahomes was sprinting the way he was from the direction he was to make that pass, and it didn't make any sense. So I think it just the catch is cooler because I don't understand how we're getting into position to make that throw.
I don't have I don't have the clip in front of me, but almost like maybe like a hungry pig right fake kind of jump pass to the flat. Or
I don't think so. It looked more downfield, but like the way he was, I don't know, it was weird. I couldn't, the camera works real tight. The Chiefs media team does a great job of making sure you can't decipher anything from the clips that they put out there. And so you can't really see much. It's real tight. It's just the direction he was running at the speed he was running before delivering that pass. It just didn't make sense to me. So I'm going to go with the catch because, hey, there's a chance that he's going to be in position to make a catch similar to that during the year.
What if it was just like them just goofing? Like the reason it doesn't make sense is because it was just them.
That's
goofing.
What I'm saying. They were probably just going around running some goofy routes, and then he's like, "Oh, here's the snap," and then Pat was like, "Oh, hey, watch this, guys." And so that's my assumption on what went down, which is still cool, right? But I'm not saying I can do what he did, but you give me enough tries, and I can go out there and eventually throw a behind the back pass like that gets within the realm of possibility for somebody to catch it. So that's not that it's not impressive. It's just I like the one-handed catch.
I have seen you throw. I don't know if you can throw behind the back.
I played an entire cornhole game behind the back one time at Holiday Distillery and was keeping up with all of you guys only throwing behind the back. So
I forgot about that. I wasn't actually there for that at that point, but you were very loudly getting it over there. Yeah. I've maintained, I think Mahomes throwing behind the back is going to be a swing route to his left. So I think if he gets the behind the back pass in a game, it is going to be a swing pass from a receiver out of the backfield, running back, whatever you want, out of the backfield on a swing route. And he's going to drop back and then he's going to throw it behind his back from there. I have maintained that is how we are going to see it introduced into the game. Yeah. And it sounds, the thing is, we heard from Patrick Mahomes a couple weeks ago. They're asking him about it. And he said, Andy's got all kinds of places for him to dial it up if he really wants. And Patrick just hasn't pulled the trigger on it. It sounds like. So it sounds like Andy's trying to give him so many chances to do it, or there's a lot of opportunities in there.
It feels like the swing pass is most likely because it's probably the safest. All you have to do is make sure that it goes forward and there's no negative aspect to it. You just can't let it come out backwards. The other way I see it is kind of like how they always do the underhand shovel pass, working to the right, back across. But the problem is then you're throwing the ball into traffic. There is a chance that it's a little off target because it's a behind the back pass. Just that's the other area where I could see that it maybe would make a little bit of sense to where it comes up, that you're calling that little shovel play. Maybe it's even more delayed, more stretched out. And if you have someone in the way from the underhand, you go behind the back. It seems highly unlikely, but I can't think of another.
You could do, okay. All right. Now I'm in my head here a little bit. So Mahomes is under center. You do, you kind of do your fake, they kind of have the fake inside zone and then it's like the shovel. So you run it from under center, you fake the inside zone, and then you've got a reverse coming. So you're flashing the reverse, right? and then you're throwing behind your back to the back, making that return on the shovel. Like you could, are you with me? Like that actually would be pretty manageable. Now you're right. The scary part of that is it is at the line of scrimmage. But if you trust the greatest player in the history of the world who has this unique skill set that can do all this stuff, like that's like the closest thing to misdirection you're gonna be able to get on the shovel anymore. Because the Chiefs kind of, with the tap pass shovel, they've kind of ruined that for people too. That's probably like the best chance they have of actually executing it. Like, I don't know. Those are a couple scenarios I could see them actually playing around with it.
No, yeah, those are some, and that's the way I pictured it. If Andy really is trying to work it in, I don't think it's like anything where the ball is going downfield at all. It's just like, hey, here's one of our misdirection plays where we're creating this horizontal stretch, and probably either Pat's on the move or, like you said, you're coming out of play action, and then you're trying to get the ball going horizontally from there. Seems like the most logical way to incorporate that, or like where even Andy would be like, oh yeah, this would be cool if it comes in here. So yeah, we'll see. They've been talking about it. We've been seeing it from practice for years now. As Bumpa says here, I don't know if we'll ever see it in a game. And I'm with you. If you're Patrick Mahomes and you know that you only get a finite number of like, hey, I just tried that, Andy, don't be mad at me. Do you really want to waste it on a behind the back pass though, right? Or would you rather do it trying to push the ball downfield into a tighter coverage? And then when you go back to Andy and he's giving you that look, you just think, hey, I had to try it here. Do you really want to waste one of those on a behind the back pass at the line of scrimmage? Is kind of where my head always goes.
I think that Mahomes should throw a behind the back pass in this year's Super Bowl to seal the three-peat. I think maybe this one's like a blowout and they get to do something kind of funny, and Carson Steele's catching a swing route behind the back pass, closing out the three-peat.
One-handed.
And perhaps the Chiefs have beaten the Bengals in the AFC Championship to get to that point. Well, we'll talk about it here. We are doing our season preview. We are going game by game on the Kansas City Chiefs schedule, looking at the opponents, from a perspective, sitting here in June, just talking a little bit about this team that they're about to be playing in week 2. The Chiefs will be hosting the Cincinnati Fraudgals. Sorry, Matthew. My apologies for not clarifying that earlier.
I didn't know who we were talking about until now.
I know. But they will be playing the Chiefs in week 2. What is the quality of the Bengals roster, Matthew?
Good. Not great, I guess. I don't know. The roster in certain positions is very good. Like, you can obviously find a lot of strengths in this team. They got to the Super Bowl a few years ago. Losing Joe Burrow last year kind of makes it a little bit of a wash, but you still saw, even with Jake Browning in there, they were a competitive football team for most of the year. So it's a quality roster. I just think you're starting to see, and we kind of talked about this with the Bills going into last year, you're starting to see some of the cracks, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Some of these contracts are running out. They're running out of some of these little windows of these good players in the primes that they had. And it seems like, not for the core of the team, because like obviously guys like Burrow and Chase and guys like are still young, Orlando Brown Jr., even these guys are still plenty young. But some of the core, especially on the defensive side of the ball, they've already started to lose some of the guys. Now you have Trey Hendrickson trying to get out or threatening to retire, and you're losing DJ Reader, and you've already lost the safeties. Granted, I think they brought Von Bell back. No, they didn't even bring they brought Von Bell back. And so it's just, I feel like they're kind of at the peak of what this roster is going to be. And if they don't cash in this year, it could take a significant step back next year, just because a lot of these core pieces have been here for 3, 4, 5 years. And now it's either time to get paid or move on to a different situation while they try to figure out what works out.
It's going to sound like an interesting, weird statement. I think this is the closest to all in the Cincinnati Bengals are capable of being. And that sounds kind of dumb, right? When you look at the perspective of they let key players walk. They let, Jonah Williams made $15 million last year, or got a contract with an APY of $15 million. Chidobe Awuzie, an APY of $12 million. DJ Reader, APY of $11 million. And yes, the Bengals only brought in one player that eclipses that $11 million number. They signed Sheldon Rankins. They added a few pieces here and there. What I mean is, like, this team is always on, like, they don't do a good job of retaining their homegrown talent as consistently as you'd like. They don't go out and spend. And in a window where Joe Burrow is about to get remarkably more expensive, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are either due for a contract or on franchise tags. Oh, and by the way, arguably your best defensive player is asking for a raise. Oh, and by the way, both of your starting tackles currently are going to be free agents in 2025. Like, this is a team that has, is on the doorstep of, having to make significant changes to how they operate, how they do business. And here we are. And like, this is it. This is what I think the closest thing to this team being in a, kind of a, put the chips into the middle of the table kind of year. This is the best version that the Bengals can get. So, they've got so many tough decisions down the road, but they've still given themselves a good offensive line. They've drafted Amarius Mims, maybe even including him on the offensive line somewhere. That could be a really salty offensive line. And then continuing to take some risks as they like to do in the draft, and doing some of that a little bit there. I like the roster. I think it's very good. I think it's on the doorstep of taking a step back, and it would require this team to start investing in their roster a little bit differently than they have historically. I think it's a pretty good roster, though. What do you think the quality of the staff is, though?
Okay. For all intents and purposes, I think it's the same staff as they've always had. Like, yes, I know they're losing Callahan, an offensive coordinator, and they're replacing him with, I believe, Dan Pitcher, who was their quarterbacks coach. So I don't want to say that there's no drop off there, but Zach Taylor is the guy who kind of runs their offense. He's always kind of been in control of that offense. It's been his thing. So I don't know what the expectation for a drop off of going from Callahan down to Pitcher should be for this team on the offensive side of the ball. I think you honestly will see a lot of the same performance, a lot of the same scheme and stuff like that coming from them. So you can't really speak to that. On the flip side, I love Lou Anarumo. I think he's great. I think he did a whole lot with a good but not great defensive roster. However, I think last year you saw the holes of how his defense runs now that teams have gotten some more time with it, and once he lost some of those safeties. Now, they did bring back Von Bell. They did sign guys like Geno Stone had come in. So like they are hoping to get better safety play, which is going to help protect a cornerback room, which is okay. Not great, but it's just, I do think you started to see some holes and big Lou's like a game plan and how he wants to scheme things up on the defensive side of the ball. So still think he's great, still think he's really good, but I do wonder if maybe we undersold a little bit of how good that defensive roster was that he was working with, or how well they complemented one another. Because last year, defensively, it really fell apart despite still having big Lou around.
I think the secondary losses over the last couple of years kind of showed themselves a little bit. Cam Taylor, Brett playing very inconsistently last year. And, some of these guys get old too. A Mike Hilton aging, there's that too. What would you say?
I would say he's still good though. I
don't get me. Yeah, he's still good, but like, it's just like they're aging. This is a group that's getting older. And like, I think one of the things I always forget when I look at these teams in their windows, like the Bills and their transitions this year, it's like the Chiefs outlasted, a window where a lot of core pieces for the Bills have moved on. And like, that's not to be taken for granted. Some of these some of these players starting to slowly fade away from a talent perspective or just be out of the league altogether. But yeah, I don't know if they sat. I do agree. Maybe we kind of underrated some of the talent that Lou Anarumo had. I still think he's a really good defensive coordinator, and I still think he has presented and given the Chiefs some fits in the past. But I do think, like, I don't know if the talent in the defense is interesting. I think it's enough for Lou Anarumo to work. But there's some questions. I'm curious about Brian Callahan's loss. It does seem like he was very highly regarded from that room. And like, I know Zach Taylor's still there, but I do feel like, Brian Callahan did really, bring more to the table than we're probably giving him credit for. And it seems like a lot of what's coming out of the room there from Cincinnati seems to kind of indicate that too.
Well, and so here's the thing with that. Like Callahan went all the way back to Peyton Manning. Like, right, he was with Peyton Manning and stuff back in, it was Denver, is where he was with him. So like he had experience in different types of systems, doing different stuff. And you very clearly see some of that influence go over to how Joe Burrow likes to run an offense versus how Peyton Manning liked to run an offense. And they, to the Bengals' credit, to the Frogles' credit, they did different stuff over the past couple years with Burrow. They got more shotgun, less shotgun, more downfield, less downfield, stuff to be like, they did different stuff and had success with it. So they were able to work all those things together. And I think Callahan played a big part in that. It's just, I'm curious as to how much of it has been Zach Taylor's baby versus how much of it was Callahan's input. Because then you go and look at Dan Pitcher. I don't know what he's going to bring, but almost all of his coaching experience comes with the Frogles. Now, some of that was under Marvin Lewis, but he hasn't really spent time in other systems. He's not bringing that kind of different view. So how much has he picked up from Taylor? How much has he picked up from Callahan before he is now kind of the guy that is helping run that room? He is the checks and balance for anything Zach Taylor wants to do. Is he ready for that? If they come out this year and they're, because Joe Burrow can move now because his calf's fine and they're going all shotgun again and it's not working, or the vertical pass game isn't there like it wasn't to start 2 years ago, does he have what it takes to work with Taylor to make these adjustments on the fly like we saw Callahan do over the past 2 years? And like, that's what we don't know. I bet going into the year, they kind of have it figured out with him and Zach Taylor working together. I just wonder when they have to pivot mid-year, if he's going to be as ready as Callahan, who had been around the game a lot longer with different guys, was ready to do for them.
Yeah, seeing how the season goes on, the continuity will obviously be good with Pitcher and Burrow and, Pitcher and Taylor, but how long, your metal gets tested, the depth of your staff starts getting tested. You're right, as the season goes on and teams start making adjustments. We are going to take a break. We will be back right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
So as a golfer, I've been golfing the last 5-ish years. I've been hearing PXG say that nobody makes golf clubs like they do, period. You know what? They're right. I went in for a fitting and saw for myself. I went in and swung the PXG Black Ops driver. It is a total game changer. You no longer have to sacrifice distance for forgiveness. And I learned that very quickly as I was testing out a new driver there at PXG when I went to a fitting at the location in Overland Park. We went through the swing analytics, adjusted a few things. Even though I was playing, they were shortening my staff a little bit just to try to try to help me control the club a little bit more. And it worked. And I was still hitting the ball the same distance that I was. I was still hitting the ball even a little bit farther than I was. So I was able to control the club a little bit better. And I was launching the ball a little bit too. I got a glorious email today that my order is ready and it's on the way. And I can't wait to get into my new Black Ops driver. I am so beyond excited. PXG made me a believer, and they'll do the same for every golfer in Kansas City. Visit pxg.com/KC Laboratory to schedule your fitting at PXG Kansas City. That's on 7517 West 119th Street in Overland Park. Get fitted for any club, and you'll get a dozen balls free. Go get fitted. You get a dozen balls for free. pxg.com/KC Laboratory to schedule your fitting. Limit 1 dozen golf balls per person. Promotion ends June 30th. Other terms and conditions may apply. See the store for details. And you want to go see the store because they're incredible people. They're so much fun to work with, and you will have a great experience. Again, pxg.com/KC Laboratory. All right. Players to watch. Matthew, give me some. Give me one. Give me one so I can talk about somebody.
Okay.
You'll just list the whole roster.
This is an easy one for me. T. Higgins. Gonna be there? Not gonna be there? What's he gonna look like when he is there? They've had some difficulty incorporating T. Higgins the different iterations of this offense. We just gave them some credit for how well they've made adjustments and stuff like that to the offense over the years, but there has been stretches where they have really struggled to get T. Higgins going. Now, some of that has been him playing injured. Some of that has been him being a very good, very, very good wide receiver. but a little bit limited in his usage overall. So I wonder what he looks like this year into a contract year to where, yeah, he's kind of playing for his next paycheck, but at the same time, he's also playing to not get hurt. I don't know. As long as he doesn't come out there and absolutely stink it up this year, he's still going to get paid. This wide receiver market's bananas right now. Looking at Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown and AJ Brown, guys are getting paid. So as long as he's just remotely healthy going into next offseason, he's going to make a lot of money. So he might not be quite as incentivized going into the quote unquote contract year as we kind of usually make it out to be. There's a guy that has a ton of production. He's clearly got the tape out there. So I just wonder what he looks like this year, especially if the assignments for him are his numbers not coming up a lot. If he's starting to see less and less of a target share to Jamar Chase or to some of these young wide receivers that they have, I wonder what his energy level, what his mentality looks like going out there, because it's a guy that I think they need to be dangerous. They can't be as dangerous of a team as the Super Bowl team was without him playing as well as he was that season. So if he's not there again, that's a big step back for them.
Is that you said that's your new addition?
You didn't ask for a new addition. You said player to watch.
Did I?
Yeah.
Tucker, I need to confirm.
Look where the tracker is, buddy.
You did say player to watch, and I did think it was kind of strange because we were on new additions, but I flipped it anyway.
That's good. All right. Well, that was Matthew Lane's player to watch. I thought we were doing new additions, and it was in my head. Fine, I'll do a player
next
to watch.
time.
Yeah.
Next time, if you think I'm wrong, you should just cut me off way sooner instead of letting me go through the whole thing.
This is a new era. New era, Matthew. I'm not going to do that.
I will to you, so that's okay.
My player to watch, I am going to go with Zach Moss. Zach Moss and Chase Brown, the pair of running backs that are kind of leading the room for the Cincinnati Bengals now. Zach Moss was a low free agent addition, didn't really cost him a ton of money. Little $4 million there, but he's had, he's strung together some strong seasons in Indianapolis. And he's a very talented physical back that I think kind of helps lean into a, physical run game identity. But pairing him with Chase Brown, I think that's a really good 1-2 punch for them in the running back room, replacing Joe Mixon, maybe not necessarily like for like, even though Joe Mixon's on the way down a little bit, if you ask me. But this is a fun little pairing there for this team. A nice little, 1-2 punch with a physical back, and then Chase Brown, who can do a little bit in space there. I like this room for them, and kind of, complementing, a very good passing game. The Bengals still want to run the football. They still like to run the football, and the potential of running behind an Amarius Mims, that could be a dangerous group there. You know what? Let's talk about their new additions though. Let's just go out of order here. Let's just do that and talk about some new additions. So tell me about a few, Matthew.
A few? Okay, perfect. No, I'm gonna go with one and let you have the others. I'm gonna go with Geno Stone. And I kind of already mentioned Von Bell, so I guess I am in a 2-for-1 here. I'm taking both safeties because their safety room last year was bad. It just wasn't good. Dak still hasn't lived up to what the draft hype was for him coming in. They really struggled to replace Von Bell and Jesse Bates. So this year they go out, they spend a little bit of money to get Geno Stone to come over after a good year, or I guess an opportunistic year with Baltimore as kind of a rotational safety, a fill-in safety, and then they bring Von Bell back. I think they're expecting a lot more consistency and a lot better communication from this back end, from these two safeties, and then Dax Hill now gets to be the third safety or playing the nickel a lot with Mike Hilton when they kind of have to move those guys around. So I see what they're going for, and I think they are smart moves. Get back Bell, who's been around this defense for a while and can help communicate. Get Geno Stone, who could be an ascending safety. The problem is, I think the athleticism of that room isn't there. It's not great. The athleticism you have when Von Bell and Geno Stone are out there together isn't something that's eye-popping to me. That's not great range. That's not, I know Geno Stone had a lot of interceptions last year, but when I watched him play, he doesn't come off as a guy that's going up to make teams pay for trying to attack another team's safeties. It's just opportunistic, which is fine. There's a talent there. It's a skill. It's not replacing Jesse Bates. It's not a Jesse Bates type player. And I think that's what made that defense so dangerous downfield, especially over the middle of the field a couple seasons ago. So I'm watching the safeties. I think they'll be better. I just don't know if they're going to be better enough to get back to what the glory years were of this defense, but it's something to watch because I think it should be a huge step up from what they had last year. And maybe they found that just good enough tier that we always talk about with this Chiefs team when they aren't able to keep everybody around all the time.
Man, Jesse Bates is such a dude. He's one of my favorite safeties in the NFL, and unfortunately, he was a Cincinnati Bengal. My two players to watch are going to be rookie draft picks on the offensive side of the ball. We talked a little bit about Amarius Mims already, and you look at on its face Orlando Brown and Trent Brown on the tackle spots for the Bengals. I want to see what the plan for Amarius Mims is. Are they going to shuffle those guys around, move one of them inside, and play one of the guard positions? That is a terrifying pairing of a left tackle and the left guard if you are to pair Amarius Mims and Orlando Brown Jr. together. That is a lot of human, something I wouldn't want to try to deal with, in a terrifying group to try to defend the run against. So I'm fascinated to see what the plan is with Amarius Mims. Eventually, he's going to slide into one of those tackle spots, because I don't think the Bengals are going to pay either Orlando Brown or Trent Brown, because they don't do that. They don't like to pay players. So we'll see where they move Amarius Mims for 2024. I think it'd be smart to get him into that into that offensive line, and I think that's a terrifying pairing if they put him over at left guard. When we're looking at the wide receiver spot, they played the character concern card again. The Cincinnati Bengals did, and went with Jermaine Burton, a guy that has some red flags from an off-field perspective. They like to do this, and this is part of their ability to help continue to churn and burn when it comes to talent, and maybe not pay as many players as some of the other teams and try to keep their good players. It's adding players like this in the third round that are falling to you. And one of the moments I remember from the draft is watching them celebrate how excited they were to be able to get Jermaine Burton in the third round. They were fist pumping and chest bumping and high fiving and all this stuff. And he's a super talented player. The tape is better than round 3. It's not the tape that's keeping him from being selected in the first couple rounds. It was the off field. So they get him into the mix. They get a very talented player at a time where, they'll probably pay Jamar Chase, and they're insane if they don't. They're probably going to let T. Higgins walk. Enter Jermaine Burton, a player with the kind of talent, downfield ability that could really pair well with Joe Burrow, especially considering the type of players that Joe Burrow likes to throw the ball down the field to. So those are two players to watch. I think could be immediate impacts for the Cincinnati Bengals and make them a very, very good offense yet again. So I'm looking at a couple of the rookies. Okay, how does this team beat the Kansas City Chiefs, Matthew?
The Chiefs and the Fraud Goals usually play late in the year, and the Chiefs try to keep a lot of stuff close to the vest. And I'm not saying the Fraud Goals don't, but we cover the Chiefs. We see this Chiefs offense go from the start of the year to the end of the year, and then the playoffs and all the different iterations of it. When they play the Fraud Goals late in the year, the Chiefs keep everything real tight, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think on week 2, they're going to be keeping anything tight, because so much is going to change from that point to the playoffs. So I think both teams, but the Chiefs in particular, are going to be a little bit more open. Now, given the Chiefs' new pieces in the wide receiver room, making sure the offensive line is still gelling with potentially a new left tackle, like there's still going to be some growing pains. I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to come out and hit the ground running, week 1, week 2, but they're going to be trying more. And I think that bodes well for them. And then on the flip side, Joe Burrow still doesn't seem like 100% healthy. He's gotten weird off days for OTAs. Like, you just don't know. He had surgery on his wrist. It took a while to heal and stuff like that. So I don't know what we're going to see from the Fraud Goals. If they are to win, it's going to come in the same way it has come in years past. Lou Anarumo is doing just enough to not necessarily confuse, but to annoy Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. And the Chiefs can't get the stuff that they want, and everything becomes second reaction plays, which the Chiefs are good at, but the Fraud Goals do a good enough job staying disciplined that they don't give up the chunk plays. Then on the offensive side of the ball, it's just a lot of YOLO balls to T. Higgins, a lot of YOLO balls to Jamar Chase, testing out the Chiefs secondary without L'Jarius Sneed and saying, hey, we don't think you can defend these guys down the field over and over and over again. I don't think it'll be a nickel and dime attack that beats the Chiefs. I don't think it will be the ball control, Joe Burrow trying to throw it all over the middle of the field. I think it'd be pushing the ball down the field vertically like they did 2 years ago when they had success against the Chiefs, not like they'd kind of been trying to do, this past couple matchups.
First 2 games are really important for the Chiefs in their pursuit of the 1 seed. And those are 2 of the biggest contenders for them. And yeah, it's good for the Chiefs that the 2 teams that they play are in the same division and can beat each other up a little bit. One of those teams is going to have to play in the wild card every year for the foreseeable future, because they're in the same division. So yeah, it's a big game for both teams. Yeah, I think it's something like, to your point, like the Bengals start fast, right? They start fast. They get some explosive plays down the field. They're able to challenge the Chiefs secondary, who has not always been great about turning and locating the football. Jamar Chase has feasted on that in the past. He's had some success. And yes, I know, Joshua Williams and Brian Cook linked up for an amazing play, down the field against Jamar Chase in the AFC Championship a couple of years ago, but consistently being tested. I think, they're going to get the best of them here or there. So if the Bengals start fast, they put some points on the board, and then they kind of start just playing that annoying style of football that just drives the Chiefs nuts, and Zach Taylor, for some of the warts I think he has, he's not afraid. He's not going to play scared. He's always going to put his foot on the gas pedal against the Chiefs. He's not going to go and do, I remember, the first time the Bengals beat the Chiefs, he essentially tried to drain the clock out by going for it on 4th and 1 at the goal line, or just trying to do little things to just try to keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, because he knows he can't let him have it back. And he's one of the guys that I think has been unafraid of the Chiefs in the past. And so, if you give him a lead and let the defense play some annoying football, that can give the Chiefs some fits. That can give them some problems. That's been kind of the formula that has made Bengals fans delusional in believing that they own Patrick Mahomes, because they've split the series and they have 0 rings to show for it, and the Chiefs have 3 rings, but whatever. That's some of the, the mystique that they believe they have. Even really, it's not been Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to completely, I'll break character a little bit. And Joe Burrow's good, but he's not a world beater either. He hasn't been a world beater in these games either. Who is the Chiefs? Oh, you got something else?
Yeah, I was gonna say, the Joe Burrow thing. It's because that first year where they had the run and they were throwing the ball downfield and doing everything. Not that Joe Burrow's not good. It's just like a lot of the clutch, a lot of this killer mantra that goes with Joe Burrow is because of that very first season. And people kind of forget he's not been that great in the playoffs. And outside of a couple, there's been a few big moments, but it's not like he's consistently going out there in big games and playing his best football and going out there and absolutely wrecking the Chiefs or other, contenders. So I get it. I get why people like Joe Burrow. I understand why it's enough to be excited for him and do I think, hey, this is a good matchup. This is another big rivalry, like QB versus QB rivalry going on in the NFL. But I do think you need to see a bounce back year from Burrow here, and especially one's not really relatable for week 2, but there's just a larger point. Get to the playoffs and let's see you play good in the fourth quarter when it matters. Let's not just see you not turn don't play the fourth quarter to not lose. Let's see you go win a game in the fourth quarter and not have your defense do it, or not have it be on a little screen pass or something like that. Let's see you do something, because I don't think he's gotten to that point yet. We haven't really had that moment from him in the playoffs or in a really, really big game.
Who is the Chiefs non-Mahomes MVP, Matthew?
Yeah, with the Travis Kelce bit gone, much like Craig Stout is from this podcast, but never forgotten again by this podcast. We are going to have to look for somebody besides Travis Kelce, who I think will be big in this game, especially talking about all of those safeties that, are new and coming in. But alas, we are going a different route. We are going with the Chiefs outside corners. And I'm using this as an umbrella term because we don't know who that's going to be yet. If Trent McDuffie stays out on the outside, like they are kind of talking about, this is a scary game for him versus T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. The ball skills, the ability to play vertical and play big at the catch point. Not Trent McDuffie's, best role, but also I trust him to be able to be good enough in those spots. But then across from him, Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, or if it's both of them, or Nazzie Johnson, whoever's out there, right? You might not be able to get dedicated safety help rep in and rep out because you don't have a L'Jarius Sneed on the outside. I don't think this is the game that you're going to leave Trent McDuffie isolated one-on-one against Chase or even Higgins as frequently as you felt comfortable doing with L'Jarius Sneed. So you're not going to get consistent dedicated safety help over the top. If you're Watson, Williams, Nazzie Johnson, whoever's out there, you're going to have a lot of balls come your way. You're going to have a lot of deep shots taken, and you got to hold your own. You can't get torched. You can't get 3-4 defensive pass interferences and give up multiple contested catches. You got to present with some kind of resistance to what the Frog Girls are going to try to do. So it's a huge game for whoever that really the second and third cornerback are going to be for this team.
And by the way, if you guys want to get a few questions in here from the chat, please feel free. We'll try to answer a few questions before we close this thing out. And you want to know something? I'm really excited for this moment today because my non-Mahomes MVP for this game is going to be Travis Kelce. I think this is a guy that Last time these two teams matched up, 4 catches, 16 yards. The time before that, 6 catches, 56 yards. The Bengals have done a pretty good job of keeping him at bay. Like they've done a pretty good job of holding this guy down. And if he's able to make a tangible impact in the middle of the field against this Bengals defense, that can go a long way in helping this offense find some footing and find some success. And the security blanket is still there. I'm really excited that we're going to get to see Travis Kelce get to play without, having the lingering effects of an injury that occurred at the start of the season. Like we saw him towards the end of the year and he still had some left in the tank. I think you're going to see a better start for Travis Kelce during the season. I think he's going to have a good year and a better start to the year. And you know what? It's my turn to make Travis Kelce the non-Mahomes MVP of this game. I am just very excited to be able to do that for the first time in the history of this show. Yeah, I thought so too. Guess the line, Matthew.
Again, is this an Arrowhead? I don't know where the home games
are. It's an Arrowhead.
Okay. 4.
You have nailed it.
Nice. Let's go. Figured to just be a little bit more than Baltimore because I think the Ravens are a little bit better than the Fraud Goals coming into the year. And so, yeah, that's how we got there.
All right. Let's see if we got a few questions in here. I did see one from here. One of those right here. Oh, it just jumped. Tim Rosser, are we sure that Joe Burrow is good? Jake Browning was decent with these wide receivers. I do think Joe Burrow. I know it's kind of funny to make fun of Joe Burrow. I do think Joe Burrow is good. I do think he has a little bit of it factor that galvanizes a team around him. He's got, good energy and he's got a good ability. I think there are better quarterbacks. I would take Josh Allen over Joe Burrow 10 times out of 10. I'm a bigger believer in a Josh Allen than I am a Joe Burrow. So I'm more in on him than I am in on a Joe Burrow. But I still think he's in the top 10.
Right now, you got to take one of these two quarterbacks. The money doesn't matter for this year. I will just say the money doesn't matter. You're taking him for this upcoming season, and the money doesn't matter. They're going to make the same flat rate of whatever it's going to be. Are you taking Joe Burrow or CJ Stroud?
Ooh. I think I'm taking Burrow.
Coward.
But man, that's close. That's close.
I'm taking Stroud because I don't know if I trust Joe Burrow to play a full season.
The health piece of it, yeah.
That's where I'm going to go. If I could guarantee both are going to be healthy, it's a lot closer for me. Like I'm with you. I'm waffling back and forth there. But given that we know that, I think CJ Stroud, and I think Stroud might even be in for a little bit of a tougher year this year as 100%. Teams get some more tape on him and they kind of figure out that Houston Texans system. But still, I really like what I saw. I think he can get himself out of issues that arise that Joe Burrow can't. And I think that's the problem. When things don't go perfect for Joe Burrow, yes, he's a little squirrely in the pocket, but I don't think he can get himself out of the same type of situations a Mahomes and Allen, a Stroud, these kind of guys can get themselves out of. So I might even lean Stroud if I could guarantee their health, but I think it's a lot closer. But with the health concerns, I don't know. I'm going Stroud.
Man, I don't know. I think Burrow's had some of the most impressive escapes from the pocket in the entire league the last years. Like the one against, what was it, the Niners last year? That was probably the best like Houdini act of the entire season. Now, CJ Stroud, since his last college football game, deserves a ton more credit for his ability to escape. He really didn't show a ton of all of that until you saw him kind of flip things on his head against Georgia.
Does Ryan Day deserve more criticism for holding back CJ Stroud from his ultimate potential?
Hey, you know where I stand on that one, but it is close. I do think the injury factor, that is a good one. That is a good one. So I will hear that argument, but there's a bigger sample size. We got this one from Lego My Ego. After this season, do y'all think the Chiefs will try to sign Hollywood to a 4-year or more contract?
So here's the thing. I wanted to talk a little bit at the top of the show about the wide receiver market, and I think Tucker and Kent thought I was kidding when I suggest that, so it didn't make our rundown. So this is my little moment.
I did not know that was a thing.
Okay, that's fine.
I didn't read that.
I don't know. No, you're good. I don't know. We went long enough without it. I was just going to be a little bit extra. Now, I don't know because the wide receiver market's crazy. If Hollywood Brown plays all year and hits all of his incentives, you're looking at a pretty pricey contract. Now, no, Hollywood Brown is not going to get into the $30 million per year that we've seen some guys get to, but still, you're no longer looking at a contract that's going to come in under $20 million per year. If he hits his incentives and does enough to where the Chiefs are like, oh, we want to lock that guy up for 4 years, he had to be great. And that means you're paying him over $20 million a year. And I don't know if the Chiefs are in a spot where they want to do that. I guess we got to see how it works out and how it looks. But I think the market just might be a little bit higher than what they're going to want to pay for somebody in free agency like that.
I have a hard time believing that they're going to try to sign Hollywood Brown to a long-term extension. And I think, the Chiefs are going to, I think the Chiefs are going to continue to make investments in the top 100 picks at the wide receiver spot until it becomes an unsustainable model and doesn't work for them. But getting a Rashee Rice and getting an Xavier Worthy, still having Travis Kelce on the roster. If you go out and if Xavier Worthy plays well this year and Rashee Rice plays this year, you are, ushering in the twilight of Travis Kelce's career. And we've been saying that for a few years now, but you get Kelce, you get Worthy, you get Rice. They're all playing well. You can go back to the Hollywood Brown-ish well. There's going to probably always be a Juju, or most years there's going to be a Juju or a Hollywood that wants to come revitalize their career and get the bag from a different team after playing with Patrick Mahomes. So I think, I don't think the Chiefs are going to go out and try to sign Hollywood or any receiver to a long-term extension until it becomes a thing where what they're doing with the pass catchers is unsustainable. Maybe they're a little bit more aggressive, this year if they don't win the Super Bowl. But I mean, they were still relatively aggressive. They used a first-round pick on Xavier Worthy, and yeah, maybe they didn't do as much aggressively in free agency, but I think they've made smart, measured moves. I think this is a good roster. I'm buying stock in Xavier Worthy here in Kansas City, and I mean, I like this receiver room. So yeah, if it's Kelce, Rice, Worthy, and then you're looking at another, a value signing at free agent, in free agency, that's pretty good. So I don't think they're going to need to go back to the Hollywood well, to try to do that. So, someone or T-Bone did ask, should we be concerned with Xavier Worthy's availability and health? So short answer, I don't think so. I think, he's played through some injuries in the past. This minor hamstring injury is precautionary more than it is like he's got a significant problem that's going to linger. The Chiefs are playing it safe, and they're going through OTAs with him doing a lot of the mental stuff rather than, getting on the field. So they said basically if it was a regular season game, he'd play anyway. I don't have a ton of concerns about Xavier Worthy, and he's going to be running away from anyone trying to hurt him anyway.
Yeah, we haven't seen the issues in college, so I think it would be just a kind of random leap to say it's definitely going to happen in the NFL. However, hey, we haven't done OTAs and he's not being able to participate in every single one. Some of it's soft tissue stuff. So we'll just have to see. I think we're in wait and see. I think you're always going to be walking on eggshells with him because of his size. I mean, it's just going to be what it is. You're going to walk on eggshells with him for his entire first contract because of his size. And if he's going to not become injury riddled, but if it's just gonna start happening with bigger, stronger, faster guys, but nothing in his history says that we should expect it to happen. I don't want to answer this one, not about the Burrow part from all chiefed up here, but do we think he's better in Home Alone 1 or Home Alone 2? It's all so first of all, Joe Burrow was better in Home Alone 2. However, the movie Home Alone 2 is terrible because the people would have died 28 times over. The pranks got too much on the pranks. You can't be hitting the head with a brick from an 8-story building 13 times in a row and live. You can't be electrocuted or blown up from a toilet filled with they would have died. So Home Alone 2, terrible movie because they should have died 30 times, but Joe Burrow acted better in that one.
Do you think how many times do you think they would have died in the first one? They're falling down icy stairs.
So, okay, go back and watch. Nothing's going to kill them. It's going to hurt like hell and you'll stop, but you're really not. The only one you might really die on was going down the back icy stairs. And if you hit your head wrong, but the others were realistic pranks, stepping on stuff, slipping and falling. You look at some of the stuff that happened in the second one, death. That is just pure death left and right.
Home Alone 2 is one of my favorite movies. I used to watch it so much. Looking back on it is kind of wild that just, Kevin's parents just lost him again. I would have so much PTSD as a parent that like I would like I don't know. I'd probably get one of those like, like leashes you put on a kid when I'm walking through the airport, but no, they just let it happen again. Like, I don't know. Whatever. That's a great way to close the June episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you all so much for listening. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later. Wow.
It was bricks being hitting somebody in the temple.